Welcome to the dysphagia-friendly cooking sessions. My name is Maria Piccini. I'm a speech-language pathologist at Baycrest. During these sessions, we are going to show you how to cook recipes that are modified for people who have dysphagia. Different textures that will allow them to eat food safely.
Hi, I'm Michelle Freilich and I'm a registered dietitian at Baycrest. All these recipes have been validated at first at George Brown College in Toronto.
And I'm Jeremy Capone. I'm the wellness chef at the ELLICSR kitchen at the Princess Margaret Cancer Center. And we are very excited to be cooking with you in this series. Let's get started.
Hi, today we are making roasted beet and butternut squash soup.
It's grated and it's C4 and it's extremely thick or pureed. This is for people who have no dentures, difficulty chewing, pain when chewing, that have difficulty moving food around their mouth, and that need really soft food to easy swallow. Pain with swallowing too, it would work.
Perfect. Excellent. Yes, so we have a soup, delicious, perfect for the cold months, I think, especially. And we have two of our favorite ingredients. We have butternut squash and we have some beets. Now, what we want to do ahead of time is roast these off in the oven. So here we have our beets. We peeled, we diced them. Same with the squash. If that is too much prep work in the kitchen, then you can always throw them in whole. So the squash, just wash it, poke it a couple times with a fork, that goes in the oven. The beets, the same thing. You don't even have to peel them. Wash them really well, stick them on a pan, throw them in the oven. We're probably just gonna give them an extra 30, 40 minutes just until they're really nice and soft, so it purees easily. But that's gonna save you a lot of prep work in the kitchen. We already did the prep work. You guys are really hard at work, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap these up in foil. So Michelle and Maria, if you don't mind, we'll do the beets, we'll do the squash, right in the middle. Beautiful. And just tightly wrap them up.
Just like so.
Pretty easy.
Well, if you have more dexterity than me, better dexterity than me, yes. I've done this before, it's not that it's new for me, but.
Fantastic. So we have our vegetable parcels ready to go. So it's gonna go into the oven for about 30 minutes. The key is that we want them to be nice and soft. So if it does need a little bit more time, if you've tested it with the back of a fork and it doesn't squish, then just give it a little bit more time.
What's the temperature?
So we're gonna use the oven at 375. And that's convection heat. If you need it a little bit higher, then you can add a little bit more heat there. So this is just to give you an idea. This is with the squash whole. And if you were doing it whole, you're doing it until it's really, really nice and soft. So you can see just by squeezing it here, that squash is coming right out. So we know that that's good to go.
It's really good.
With the beets, we did the same thing, and you can see here as well that just by squeezing it, yes, you're gonna get a little messy with beets.
They dye your hands.
And you can see that it's really nice and soft. We are gonna be finishing it in the soup as well, so it will soften even more. Okay, so we have our beets, we have our squash, and now to get the soup started, we have a pot over medium heat. We're gonna add a little bit of olive oil. We're gonna add some diced onions to that. And once you hear that sizzle, you can hear that sizzle. We know that the heat is there, it's doing its job. And we wanna break that down. We wanna soften a little bit. We don't wanna too high of a heat, otherwise we're gonna get some browning and some crispy bits, and that's gonna be really hard to blend through. So we just want a nice sweat, we call it sweating. Just a medium heat, and just until the onions become slightly translucent and they soften. And then we can go ahead and add garlic. How much garlic do you guys want to add?
Let's go lots.
Couple. All right, so we'll go with 2. Now you can just crush it like this, with the back of a knife and just throw it in. If you do want to chop it, we can chop it as well. Because we're pureeing the soup anyways,
We don't need
you don't
to
even need the
chop
extra
it.
work. Just give it a nice crush. Throw in that garlic.
Gotta love that garlic smell.
Yes. So you're going to be filling up the kitchen with all this incredible aroma.
The beets have lots of vitamins and minerals and high in fiber.
How about the squash? I love the orange color.
Squash, the orange color tells you it's rich in beta carotene and lots of great vegetables.
Beautiful. So you can see we're just, with our spoon, we're just scooping that squash out.
Look how easy.
Very easy, probably easier than dicing it and then roasting it.
And you can go either way. If you don't want to bother roasting it whole and you don't want to dice it, you can even buy frozen squash, already pre-diced, pre-washed, it's already done for you.
That's true too.
And you can just throw that in the oven until it's nice and soft. The idea is that the oven itself is going to be doing a lot of that work for you. So getting a pre-roast, you're going to get
And that's after 30 minutes in the oven?
No, so because it's whole, this will take about an hour.
Oh, a full hour.
Yeah,
Okay.
when it's diced small, then it'll take about 30 minutes. It's much smaller, so it'll cook a lot faster. Perfect, so we have our whole squash. We have our beets and our squash, so that's going to go in the soup pot. And then any herbs you can add fresh or dried. We have some dried thyme here, or sorry, fresh thyme that we've chopped up. We're going to add that, about a tablespoon in here. But if you don't have thyme, sage would go really well with squash.
Sage, okay.
Rosemary would go really well. And then we'll cover that with some vegetable stock. We'll start with about 3 cups. If we need more, we can always add a little bit more liquid, just thin it out. But we're looking for
A pureed.
the puree texture, correct?
Pureed extremely thick. So
we don't want to add too much. We can always add more after.
Absolutely. It's much easier to thin it out than if you make it too thin.
Yes, exactly, yeah. So we have our stock in there. And because the vegetables are already par cooked, this won't take too much time. So we'll put a lid on top and let that simmer for about 20 minutes, and then we can check to see that the squash and check to see that the beets are really, really soft and they squish really easily with the back of the fork, and then we can puree it. We can blend it. Really,
It's almost
really
like
nice.
a pink.
you see, and it should
color.
look really small, smooth, soft, no lumps in it,
Yes.
no strings.
And if you have any doubts about any particles, any fibers in there, you can always pass it through a sieve as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It should be. You should be able to eat it with a spoon, not to be, not from a cup. You shouldn't drink. You couldn't drink this from a cup.
No.
It's that thick.
You need a spoon.
Yeah, you need a spoon, and actually the texture should, once you take it with a spoon, you
Right.
scoop it. It should keep the shape of the food. It should keep its shape on the spoon. And then you tilt it, and it should all come out directly when you tilt it as one lump.
Perfect. So that's it plated. As an optional garnish, you can add a little bit of goat cheese, which I love.
I love it too. It's got a distinctive taste.
Well, there it is.
That looks awesome.
Roasted butternut squash and beet soup. Perfect for the cold months. And we're going to jump right in.
It's C4. That's what it is.
Roasted beet and butternut squash soup.
Thank you.